Deep from the bowels of the Macabre Theater Laboratory, we bring you Macabre Cast. There is nothing wrong with your streaming service. You are exactly where you should be, where the slush puppy machine is always on and cold. Your favorite horror mag is on the rack, discreetly displayed between Women's Wear Daily and Cosmopolitan. I'm your host, Dark Mark, along with my mold-riddled counterpart, Karis, the Little Mummy, here to bring you the latest episode of Macabre Cast, where we'll be dropping ours where they belong and adding them where they don't. This is a safe space for those who grew up knowing Alice Cooper eats Blackie Lawless for breakfast. Newbies welcome, regulars welcome back, and worshippers, get out of here. If you haven't already, click that subscribe or follow button and tell a friend to do the same, even that guy who listens to Winger. Yeah, that guy. If you wish to interact with fellow Monster Kids, follow the Facebook page, Macabre Theater. It's there where you can send me a voice message through Messenger and be part of the show. A link can be found in the description of this episode. Macabre Cast episode 140 begins now.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Adoro il cast macabro.
Horror meets rock and roll, Karis.
Oh boy, exciting.
Your enthusiasm is, it's weak.
Your topic is weak.
Others actually think it's a good topic.
What do you call an elephant that doesn't matter?
Gee, Karis, who knows? What do you call an elephant that doesn't matter?
Irrelevant.
And on that note, it's time for horror news. Lee Cronin's The Mummy dropped its teaser trailer. T.K. Carter, one of the stars of John Carpenter's remake, The Thing, has passed on to the other side at 69 years young. Godzilla Minus One gets a sequel, Godzilla Minus Zero. Releases in Japan November 3rd of 2026 and in North America on November 6th, 2026. The Burbs, the TV series, will premiere on Peacock next month, February 8th. Black Mirror Season 8 has been greenlighted by Netflix. And that's it for horror news. Children of the night, what messes they make. So last week, on episode 139, I went on a rant for about 10 minutes about this Return of the Living Dead sequel that's coming out, and about the timeline. And I went on and on and on about how they said it's going to take place 18 months later, and I said, how could that be a thing? And this was out in 85, and that doesn't make any sense, because it's supposed to take place in 1985. And then Scary Larry messaged me to let me know that although the movie came out in 1985, the date and timeline in the film is 1984. So much for that. So erase everything I said and discussed about the writing and the timeline. Hey, can't wait to see Return of the Living Dead, the sequel. So Metal Melody has been talking about the movie Talk to Me forever. And this came out in 2022. I didn't realize it's been around for 3 years. But I finally had the opportunity to see it with Jack-o'-lantern and sort of Laura Horror because she was asleep on the couch, so that doesn't count. Anyway, it's on Tubi, who, by the way, is killing it for horror movies. You know, Tubi is really knocking it out of the park. Boy, Melody, you were right. I loved it. And so did Jack-O-Lantern. Directed by Danny and Michael Filippo, not really sure how you say their name, and a bunch of Australian actors whom I'm very unfamiliar with, and I'm not even going to be, I don't mean to be so ignorant, but I'm not going to list them. They were all great. How's that? The basic story is that this young girl, Mia, is trying to come to terms with her mother's death, which was about 2 years ago. And she finds herself and her friend and his little brother at a house party, where the main attraction is like a seance, so to speak, only instead of a Ouija board, they're using the severed and embalmed hand of a dead medium. A person volunteers, they hold the hand of the embalmed extremity, and they utter the phrase, "Talk to me." And then they say, "I let you in." The person then goes into a type of possessed state, allowing them to see the dead that may be with them in the room. The reaction to what they are seeing is the morbid, exciting, and funny entertainment for the party of young adults. And when the candle is blown out, the possessed participant returns to their normal self. The gist is to get the candle blown out within 90 seconds, or you may not be able to come back. These seance scenes are set up beautifully. As the volunteers become ecstatic with the feelings the possession gives them, and they want to do it again and again and even more, the foreboding this creates is nothing more than creeperific. At least that's my opinion. And you know it's only a matter of time before this all goes south. And the cold opening has already assured us that it will. Definitely a slow burn, but if you thrive on unrelenting hints of what's to come, I'm sure you're going to enjoy this as much as I did. If you've ever pondered what it might be like on the other side, this movie will make you take a rain check on those thoughts. Dark Mark gives this 4 out of 5 stars. And like Metal Melody, I say, go check it out.
Go check it out! Grim Facts.
Hi, Dark Mark. Hi, Karis the Little Mummy. Hello, Monster Kids. How are ya? Grim Kim checking in. Hope you had a nice week. Got to see my sister last night, which is always just soul fulfilling to me. And we sat down and watched a movie. I was getting late, so I told her I would just drop the review on behalf of both of us today. It took us quite a while to settle on a movie. We had wanted to watch Bette Davis and the Nanny from 1965. Of course, you just can't find it anywhere. Like, literally, you can't find it, even though it said it was here or there. And I start scrolling through my movie, screenshot gallery, and it's just Sisyphean in nature, and I should just not start saving movies and just... Anyway, what we settled on was Borderland, 2025, it's new, and it was a comedy horror. Samara Weaving, who was in Ready or Not, and I am so looking forward to Ready or Not 2, is coming out soon. I so enjoyed that movie. If you haven't seen it, horror comedy, again, I highly recommend it. She was awesome in this movie too. It was very, very clever. It's bittersweet because it must be Eric Dean's last performance, because he's still walking and talking and all that, and he is in a wheelchair now with his ALS, so it was very bittersweet to see him. It was a great role for him. The story was very, very interesting about an obsessed stalker / fan of a celebrity, and the lengths he goes through, and just how delusionally he is in trying to win her over, let's say. Yeah, I highly recommend it. It was really, really good. At the end, towards the end, Chris goes, "Who is this guy? He looks so familiar." The young leading role in it. So I Google it. Well, no wonder he looks so familiar. It's Ray Nicholson, Jack Nicholson's son. And it was like, once you know that, there's like no not knowing it because he looks just like him. And there's this one scene in the movie which has to be a nod to Jack Nicholson in The Shining when he was practicing trying to sound normal and smile. And this is similar to what Ray is doing in this little scene. As soon as he did this, I was like, oh, this is just like The Shining, which I've seen fairly recently, so that particular scene was stuck in my head. Again, very, very enjoyable. I may start grabbing some old classics from the library down here in Wakefield near my mom, pop a DVD in for me. She's 80, almost 86, and for some reason, even the black and white movies, of like a scary or mystery nature, she's like, oh my God, I don't know if I'll be able to sleep tonight. It's like, really? Really? So I missed a good one I wanted to see the other night, and I decided to forego and let her watch her Wheel of Fortune instead. Spending a lot of time at my mom's right now, so I just gotta grab a little laptop. I download Tubi so I can get on with, relaxing to my terrifying and horrifying horror movies I've been watching, which I enjoy and are settling for me. And I'm sure you monster kids feel the same. And I don't know, I think part of the allure, it's just interesting stories. And also, when I watch them, I'm like, well, I guess my life isn't that bad after all. Depending on what's going on in the story, So anyway, okay, that's it for this week. And I wish you well. Mark, I was enjoying seeing all the pictures for the latest Blizzard of Oz. It looked fantabulous. And I hope I get to see you perform again soon. Okay, talk to y'all later. Bye.
I remember a time when Grim Kim was queen of the swear jar. Not so much anymore. The Nanny. Let me tell you something, Grim Kim. I have been wanting to see that movie forever. I caught a scene of it or an old trailer, and I've looked for it forever. I've never seen Bette Davis in a movie called The Nanny. I've been dying to see that, and I hope one day that I get to. Borderland sounds really interesting. And Ray Nicholson, by the way, and I don't know if you saw this movie, but he has a very small part in Smile 2, where they kind of just zoom in on him. And he does this dad smile. I mean, you talk about ode to The Shining, okay? That one little scene he's in Smile 2 is the best thing in the whole movie, because actually, personally, I think Smile 2 stinks. It's right up there. It's definitely nominated for horrible mention. And yes, you've seen us, Blizzard of Oz many times. And, of course, we hope to see you out there again. And it was a great show, though. Blue Ocean Music Hall sold out. It was fantastic. And the Lords of Salem opened, and they were just phenomenal. If you're a Rob Zombie fan, definitely the band to check out. Always so great to hear from you, Grim Kim, and we hope to have you and Chris on again soon so we can resume our Twins of Evil. But that's for another day. Have a great week.
Ah, yes. The former queen of the swear jar. Well, that just goes to show you, Doc. Nothing lasts forever.
Horror chap Matt knows all about monsters. He said they were coming to get me tonight.
Hey, Doc Mark, Little Carson, and all the monster kids hanging out at the theater this week. It's Horror Chat Matt checking in. So, Doc, I did want to clear something up when it comes to Stranger Things. I did actually enjoy the final. I know I was a little bit critical of a lot of the plot holes and some of the stuff that I didn't like about it, but overall I did enjoy the final, so I want to get that out there on the record. I don't want to be lumped into the people who said it was terrible. Oh. And as far as horror and rock and roll meeting, I definitely agree with most of the bands that you mentioned. For myself, personally, the one I could relate to the most was Rob Zombie. Growing up in the MTV generation, it was always exciting when one of his new videos would drop and he would mix in some zany and wacky clips and stuff from older movies and TV shows, and just thought he was very creative with some of the stuff and stuff that he would put in the videos as tribute to old TV shows and horror movies. And I always wondered how he would do as a horror movie director. Well, we found that out, and I basically have a love-hate relationship with his movies, but that's a story for another day. And also, not rock, but rap. There was a group that I always loved listening to. They were called Gravediggers, and they were a spin-off group from the Wu-Tang Clan. And one of my favorite horror movie soundtracks of all time was the criminally underrated anthology Tales from the Hood. They are featured on that, as well as some other lesser-known groups. I guess you could say Gravediggers is probably not well-known either, but in the rap world, it was just some random groups they threw together, and all the songs had horror elements to it. And yeah, that's about it for me with horror and rock and roll and I guess rap. And I did take in a movie just recently. I'm probably going to say this the wrong way. I haven't heard it actually pronounced out loud, but I believe you call it Bugonya, starring Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons and Aidan Delbus. I really enjoyed it. It was like a R-rated Twilight Zone movie. Pretty out there. You had you guessing. The plot basically is these two guys kidnap Emma Stone, who's like a head of a corporation, and they're accusing her of being an alien. It's one of those classic, is she, isn't she? And I'm not going to give anything away. And there's a couple of bonkers scenes where you get some extreme violence in this thing, and the ending is pretty good, if you ask me. Some great wide lens shots, and it's a bright and colorful movie. And I thought everybody in it did a great job, and I highly recommend it. And that'll be it for me this week, Dark. As always, make mine Macabrecast.
Yes, Rob Zombie is great at that, mixing the horror into the hard rock. But there's so many before, so many even after him. And as far as his films, Horror Chat, we could have a whole episode dedicated to that. Definitely a deep depth dive. Many people have many opinions of his films. Good, bad, medium. But as you said, that's a topic for another day. Bugonya, I know nothing about. I don't even think I've even heard of that. But coming up later, a very different deep depth dive in horror meets rock on a more personal level. But we hope to hear from you again next week. Horror Chat Matt. Have a good one.
And now it's time for real world horror. And now here's your host, Dark Mark.
In the town of Truro, Mass, on Cape Cod, between the year of 1968 and 1969, the butchered bodies of 4 women were found in the forest clearing. The discovery came in February of 1969 during a search for 2 missing women, Patricia Walsh and Mary Ann Wysocki. The search was conducted in the area where Patricia Walsh's van was found abandoned. During the search, the body of Susan Perry was found. She had gone missing the previous year. Perry's body had been cut into 8 pieces. A month later, parts of Marianne Wasaki's body was found, and then Patricia Walsh's beneath her remains. They also found Sidney Monson. The corpses showed signs of necrophilia. Anton Charles Costa, known as Tony Costa, was known to police for growing marijuana in this clearing. This made him their main suspect. Costa knew all 4 women. His fingerprints were found on a torn curtain from the abandoned van. Costa was considered as a potential suspect in the deaths of 16 other women on the West Coast. The media labeled him the Cape Cod Vampire, sometimes the Cape Cod Cannibal. In May of 1970, Costa was convicted and sentenced to Walpole Correctional Institution. On May 12, 1974, Costa was found hanging in his cell of an apparent suicide. Although this has been questioned, in 2021, Lisa Rodman co-wrote a book called The Babysitter, My Summer with a Serial Killer. Yes, Tony Costa was the babysitter from her childhood.
Tune in next time to Real World Horror with Dark Mark.
Is this something you could share with the rest of us, Amazing Larry?
Greetings, Dark Mark and Karis the Little Mummy. Scared Larry here, bringing the opinions no one asked for. Hey, Karis, what's a skeleton's favorite type of road? A dead end. After some thought, some of my favorite horror-based songs are, in no particular order, Mr. Crowley, Captain Howdy, Werewolves of London, and a personal favorite of mine is Bloodletting, the Vampire Song, Living Dead Girl, Dragula. A lot of those have been featured in horror movies, but weren't written for horror movies. There's even some non-horror songs that have made horror movies a bit more creepy. Tiptoe Through the Tulips, Looking for the Magic are a couple examples. Moving on. So let's talk Justin Long. I first saw him play the goofy underdog character in several movies, even in the original Jeepers Creepers and Drag Me to Hell. But lately, he's taken on a new persona in his characters, a more smarmy, creepy guy who shows up in horror movies and the audience automatically wishes he receives a painful death. I think he nailed this in Barbarian and even in Tusk. Now, in my opinion, he went way over the top in It's a Wonderful Knife to the point of being just annoying. Which leads me to this week's review, House of Darkness. Now, I have a few different streaming services, and when I'm rolling through my Fire Stick, it'll show movie suggestions and thumbnails. I saw a thumbnail for a movie called House of Darkness. The name and cover art made me think of a 70s Hammer film, so imagine my surprise when I saw that it came out in 2022, right before Barbarian. Now, I don't recall it being advertised, and that was during my annual quest to see 100 new to me horror movies. I had some time this evening, so I watched it. Without going into spoilers, it's an interesting twist on Bram Stoker's Dracula. He stars opposite Kate Bosworth, and here he's more disciplined. He shows only hints of his sleaziness. It takes time for you to want to hate the character, if you want to look forward to see if he gets his comeuppance. Now remember, a vampire has to get you to invite them in, or else they can't enter. What if the vampire invites you in and you accept? Now, it's said about serial killers in real life that they get more of a rush if they convince their victim to go willingly along with them, to want to follow that person until they realize too late the mortal danger that they're in. So this movie, it's a cat and mouse game of seduction, and I'll let you watch to see how it turns out. While there's very little violence or gore, it's a slow burn that actually works. A lot of dialogue, but it carries the film. Unlike in Heretic, where the heavy dialogue just suffocates you, this was a necessary part of the film. I do recommend this one, worth a look. It's currently streaming on Prime. 3.25 stars out of 4 for me.
Great when horror met rock songs, Larry. Great suggestions. And yes, innocent songs that become somehow nefarious when played in a horror movie. But that's almost a subject for another day that I actually think we touched on one other time before. And yes, Justin Long is great at what he does. And now I'm very intrigued, and we'll have to check out House of Darkness from 2022. That sounds excellent. Yeah, and you mentioned the twist on Bram Stoker's Dracula. But let's always remember, right, that in the opening of the 1931 Dracula with Lugosi, Dracula technically invites Renfield in.
Did you notice something? Scary Larry always has to throw a shot in at Hereditary. It's one of his blacklist films. And I know how much you like it, Mark. Of course, Chicago Tina likes it too. But he's always throwing in that dig.
Always great to hear from you, Scary. Look forward to hearing from you next week.
Deep Death Dive.
This time, it's personal. What? It is, isn't it?
This week's Deep Death Dive is very different because I'm going to talk more from a personal level as opposed to trivia and facts and go through my life of discovering rock and horror. Because as I have said, when I was very young, I'm talking in 1978, 79, I was still very into the Bee Gees. And it wasn't until my mother's half-sister and half-brother, my aunt and uncle, came out here to live. They came out from Chicago. And my aunt, especially only being like 5 years older than myself, they came out here toting all their hard rock, AC/DC, the Scorpions. So this was brand new to me. And it was like never looking back. But Kiss, although I never found Kiss scary or horror, I definitely like they had a gothic thing going on. But Kiss meets the Phantom of the Park, which definitely needs some type of a deep death dive or some kind of discussion down the road. But they always kind of came across as more superhero than scary. But I'll never forget, as I was getting deep into heavy metal and rock, looking through some of the music magazines, along comes this ad for a band called Iron Maiden. And the album was called Killers, and it had this rotted corpse holding an axe after he had just, killed this victim that's holding onto his shirt as he's slumping down, and there's so much to look at. Bought the album without hearing a single note. And the good news is I loved them and never looked back. And that was only their second album. And then I went and got their first, and they were just so known for making songs like Phantom of the Opera, Transylvania. They were very about the horror genre mixed with rock, which was, for me, ecstasy. And, I think it was 1983, or maybe the end of 82. I remember when Iron Maiden's Number of the Beast came out, and I picked up the album, the vinyl, at the record store I used to walk to. And I remember just staring at that album cover the entire way home, completely mesmerized. My mom wasn't too happy with that album cover. If you can remember, it's the rotted corpse Eddie. He's working the devil like a puppet as the puppet works man. Yeah, she wasn't too happy with that. But a fond memory in the very early stages of Iron Maiden. And that's the album when they first switched singers, which I was upset about until I listened to that album. And wow, I suddenly understood why they took on Bruce Dickinson. And then came, discovering Black Sabbath and Ozzy, who was completely mysterious in this whole biting the head off a bat. And then the stories that came about not starting concerts till he handed out these puppies and wouldn't start the concert till the puppies were killed, which was all nonsense. That same story circulated back around during the days of Marilyn Manson. It's just a story made up by these fundamental Christian groups because they just don't like what these bands are singing about. And then the eternal Alice Cooper, right, which I had been listening to, all his older albums, and he kind of phased out. He wasn't what he was in the 1970s coming into the 1980s, but he made his comeback just at the same time Jason Voorhees made his comeback. Now, Jason was long dead and buried, as we know from Friday the 13th, Part 5, the Jasonless entry. And then out comes Jason Lives, and at the same time, Alice Cooper is making his heavy metal comeback with the Man Behind the Mask song. And it couldn't be more perfect. He's making his comeback amongst the horror films, which, he also loved and kind of portrayed on stage. And then during the 80s, we start getting into King Diamond and Venom, the black metal. And King Diamond, a very talented musician and a real great musical storyteller, but and there was a time, you can, people to each his own, and if you're a true Satanist like King Diamond boasts that he is, you try to overlook that and you try to respect the talent, but I just don't want to hear stuff that's preaching about Satan all the time, just the way some people just don't want to hear religion in any form being preached. And Venom, the beginning of black metal, and then black metal goes into this whole crazy thing, over in Finland and whatnot, where they're burning churches down, and some band members are killing each other. That's just crazy stuff, and a lot of that music's not even very good.
And who can forget the Misfits and all their songs devoted to horror movies, Die Monster Die, and so on. And in the heyday of Satanic Panic, with your King Diamonds and your Venoms and backmasking, along comes the film Trick or Treat, which I love. And I love Fastway. But of all the bands you would pick about an evil band and backmasking, Fastway would probably be at the bottom of the list when you've got your King Diamonds and Venom and so much out there that would have made a lot more sense. But it's still a great movie and a great soundtrack.
And then you have Rob Zombie, kind of almost like a reinvented Alice Cooper, with a rave metal and a monster twist. And now there's Ghost. So for such a long time, since the very late 60s to now, horror movies and rock music have kind of just gone hand in hand. And that's awesome. Who could ask for more? And that's what I meant by this was kind of a very different deep depth dive. Nothing groundbreaking. Just wanted to reminisce about all the rock and heavy metal music out there that embraced the horror genre, which was kind of frowned upon, which, like most rock, was kind of frowned upon at one time. Rock meets horror. And that was the topic this week, and that's my take.
Deep, death, dive.
This time, it's personal. What? It is, isn't it?
Way cool. It's Chicago Tina.
Hey, Dark Mark and Karis, the little mummy, and all you kids out there in Monsterland. I hope you're all doing well. I finally broke down and saw the movie Sinners. And I just want to say that I think it's the best movie of 2026. And that's in all genres, too. I saw all the big movies that came out last year. I saw One Battle After Another, Begonia, Frankenstein, And I liked Sinners the best, I believe. And I'm glad it's getting some recognition at the awards ceremonies that are going on right now. And I hope the Oscars pays attention and they win some Oscars for that, because I thought it was really well done. Also, I finally broke down and saw The Haunting of Hill House. Well, I started watching it. I'm on the second episode, and everybody's right. Again, great show so far, and I'll have to let you know as I go along what I think of it, because I'm just starting it. But it hooked me right away. I was surprised. And also, the other thing I wanted to bring up was you were talking about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 last week. Yeah. Well, you forgot to mention Viggo Mortensen, by the way. He was in that movie. He's a huge star now, and I'm surprised you didn't mention him. But I wanted to say that I thought you were talking about, in the beginning, because I'm not really familiar with anything after the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I thought you were talking about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 4, which is, I saw a part of that, and I saw Matthew McConaughey, and I'm like, what movie is this? I only saw a little snippet of it, but it was so disturbing that it stuck with me for years. And I didn't watch the whole movie at all. I just saw one part, and I was like, God, that's a weird movie. What's Matthew McConaughey doing in this movie? Whatever. Anyway, so now I'm going to go back and watch the third one and the fourth one. I don't know anything about the second one, but the first movie was pretty disturbing, and I can see why Grim Kim couldn't. It took her such a long time to watch it because it was just off. It was just weird, and yeah, I can't wait to watch the third one now, and I will watch the fourth one. And that's about it. I'm also looking forward to the new series. I think you said it was on Netflix, Carrie, because my daughter is going to be in Carrie the musical next March, this March, actually. And we're looking forward to that. So, so I hope to talk to you guys next week. We'll see if, how far I progress with watching things in the movies and on television. And I hope y'all have a great week. Talk to you later. Bye. Oh, and one more thing. The Lords of Salem, they were awesome.
I still need to check out Sinners, and I've heard nothing but good things from you and Grim Kim. Haunting of Hill House, phenomenal. But my favorite of his Netflix series, and I know it's not one of Grim Kim's favorites, but is Midnight Mass. And if you haven't seen Midnight Mass, Tina, please do. Heavy, heavy, heavy on the dialogue and the monologues. But I love that. I truly do. Midnight Mass. Check that out. Chainsaw 4, I don't know what scene you saw, but Chainsaw 4 is horrendous. And the fact that it was written by Kim Hinkle, who was part of writing the original, I'll just never know. I think Matthew McConaughey gives an over-the-top, ridiculous performance, and Renee Zellweger is just completely forgettable. How the two became huge stars after that is beyond me. But I cannot stand Chainsaw 4. It was originally called The Return of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is a great title next to Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation. Please send more information on your daughter Violet's show, Carrie the Musical. I can't imagine that story being a musical. And is it a comedic take on the film, or is it just a musical? I have questions. Thank you so much for attending Blizzard of Oz. So happy you enjoyed it. And yes, the Lords of Salem were fantastic. We had been looking for an opening band that would really get the crowd going, and I had seen them on Facebook, told Damiano, the guitar player, and he reached out to them, and they were phenomenal. A great bunch of guys. Couldn't have had more fun. And again, thank you so much for coming. That was a sold-out show at Blue Ocean Music Hall. Great hearing from you, Chicago Tina, and we hope to hear from you again next week.
Don't touch that dial, monster kids.
Yeah, you don't know where it's been.
pipe down. It's almost time for the final thought.
Not quite, bro. Not before. Cobwebbed classics.
Ooh, yeah, Cobwebbed classics.
Welcome to Cobwebbed Classics, where I dust off a lost, forgotten, or just plain unappreciated film and introduce it to, or maybe just remind you about it, so your spooky Saturday night might run a little creepier. This week's Cobwebbed Classic is 1981's Hell Night, directed by Tom DeSimone, starring Linda Exorcist Blair, Vincent Van Patten, and Peter Barton. Hell Night is when the college has its newest pledges perform an initiation in order to join this particular fraternity. And the go-round for these 4 pledges is they must spend the night in the historic Garth Manor, where 12 years earlier owner Garth strangled his wife and murdered 3 of his 4 children due to the fact that they were deformed. He then hung himself. 4th child, Andrew Garth, was never found. The legend goes that Andrew witnessed the murders and still lives in the catacombs of the manor. The backstory is great. The 4 pledges are somewhat likable, but too much of the film dwells on the fraternity president and his lackey trying to scare them into leaving. Once the real horror gets going, it's a fun 80s romp. I wish more time could have been spent on the ghostly ghouls, at least maybe who was who, and many of the scary scenes are a tad too dark. But in fairness, I have never seen the Blu-ray, and it's possible that this was corrected. This is the type of film where a remake would do it justice. Utilize the backstory, maybe even show us some of it. Instead of the college prank stuff, creepy Andrew Garth, he might even get a franchise. The actor who played the fraternity president, Kevin Brophy, said he still has the purple cape he wore in the film and has worn it every Halloween ever since. And no one probably has any idea what it's from. Kevin Costner, before he became a Hollywood star, was a grip on this film. Director Frank Darabont, who did The Shawshank Redemption, was a production assistant. Howard Stern took Linda Blair to the premiere party for this film. Taglines for this gem are as follows. Pray for day. 1981's Hell Night is this week's Cobwebbed Classics.
The following program is rated TV MALV. It contains strong language and violence. It is intended only for mature audiences.
Metal Melody.
Hello, Doc Mark, Karis the Little Mummy, and all the Macabre fans listening. It's me, Metal Melody, and I got some things to talk about. First, let me say, Mark, I'm glad you got the whole Jaws thing off your chest. I could tell that really chapped your ass. Also, any true Jaws fans know that the dog's name was Pippet. I also heard many people over the years call him other stupid, dumb things, especially Pippin was a big one. Also, anyone who thinks the shark didn't eat him is delusional. Like, what did the dog do? Like, walk off the beach and get a fried dough? I mean, come on. Of course he friggin' ate him. Like, don't be a moron. Horror Chat Matt, the movie Keeper kind of reminded me of Bone Lake. Not that they were similar movies, but I didn't care for either one, but I had to keep watching it through to see how it ended. Type of thing, you know what I mean? Also, thanks to Scary Larry about his review on We Bury the Dead or whatever he's saying, because I'll definitely wait for that to stream because it was on my viewing at the movies list that I have. But let me talk about some movies I've seen recently. But next on my list will be The Bone Temple. I'm hoping to go see that one next. Movies I have seen recently is Don't Follow Me. which is a 2025 Blumhouse movie. It is in Spanish, so if you don't like reading captions, then it's not for you. It's about a girl named Carla who's trying to gain more followers on her social media. So she moves into this known haunted house in Mexico and makes fake paranormal activity in her videos. But somehow she accidentally summons a real entity that lives in her apartment. Her fake videos start to become very real, and she starts to gain thousands of followers. And it's so obsessed, no matter like what the cost is to her, like the harm or the spookings or anything. The ending was a little weird, but all in all, I thought it was a good movie. Begonia wasn't my type of movie. I had watched that. I will say, though, I didn't think it would have ended the way it did. Let's just say that. And if you've seen it or you're going to see it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Third movie was Primate. This was such a good frickin' movie that, believe me, you have to watch it in the cinema. Like, you just have to. I saw this with my sister, and it was definitely a good thriller. It's pretty much about a chimpanzee. The family lives in Hawaii. He contracts rabies, and it shows the changes in him from going to like a family pet to like a wild rabid chimp. It was very suspenseful, and it had me waiting to see what happened next, and it had some cool kills. I love the fact that they used a real chimpanzee portrayed through practical effects, prosthetics, puppetry, rather than full CGI. This made him appear more believable. I loved it. I thought it was a great movie. I definitely recommend this one, and I would give it like 3.5 stars or 3.75. My sister and I started watching it on the Fire Stick, and we were like maybe 20 minutes in, and we shut it off because we're like, we have to go watch this at the cinema. Like, we just have to go watch this at the cinema because it looked so good that I didn't want to watch it on TV. And I'm glad we did because it was amazing. I can't say enough good things about it. Really, really good. As far as the topic, I might be confused. I thought that Mark was talking about a favorite rock movie. Yeah, hello, Mel. A famous rock song band in the horror movie. Dream Warriors, Dawkins, one of my absolute favorites. Nightmare on Elm Street 3. Rocks. Lastly, Mark, what can I say? You guys were incredible at the Blue Ocean. Hold on. My whole table enjoyed the show, and I was rocking out all night. You guys seriously killed it. I tried to come say hello after the show, but there were so many people waiting in line, and my sister was rushing me. However, I did get a chance to say bye and give a hug to Laura. It was nice to see her in Jack-O-Lantern. Laura also introduced me to Carnage Karen and Chicago Tina, so now I have a face to put to the names. So that was pretty cool. Well, that's all I have for now. So until next time, which hopefully I will be able to have a review on the Bone Temple. We'll see. Episode 141. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
What Spielberg doesn't realize, or well, maybe he does, he tells a story to make people feel good that the dog wasn't eaten and it went home for dinner. And then it creates this. People that will just argue and swear and no. Anyway, we did that last week. I'm not going to do it again. Don't Follow Me sounds good. I have no problem with the subtitles. I watch lots and lots of foreign horror movies. A lot of them Italian, but I do love the Spanish too. And that one sounds pretty good. Don't Follow Me. Isn't that how, fake, fake readings, fake mediums, fake, seances go, brings the real ones out all the time. It's kind of like a common theme in these movies. Obviously, you love Primate. I mean, I don't know. Can I get behind a Kill a Chimp movie? Maybe. I'm sure it's very good. And Dawkins' Dream Warriors, Yeah, that's rock meets horror on purpose. Obviously for the film, but that like Fastway. And that was on purpose too. But nice choice. I do love that song. Thank you so much for coming out to see Blizzard of Oz. I'm so glad that you all had a good time, and I was wondering where you were and why I didn't get to see you after the show, but now I know. And at least Laura Hara and Jacqueline didn't get to see you, but I'm so glad you had such a great time at the show. And, Blizzard hopes to see you once again. And the Lords of Salem, I can't say it enough, they were fantastic. So glad that we had those guys for an opening band. So great to hear from you, Metal Melody, and we hope to hear from you again next week.
Diti questo episodio de Cast Macabro.
Thank you, Maria Monstalia, for telling our Italian friends to enjoy this episode of Macabre Cast. I don't know about you, but aside from being a musician, music has always been such a passionate part of my life. For me, it can sometimes make or break a film. But regardless, I cannot express enough how awesome it was to grow up as a monster kid during such a definitive time of horror and rock music going together hand in hand. It was a glorious time. Thank you for sharing your favorites with me. So no matter what goes down between now and next week, you can be sure to meet me at the only exit from the torture house of hell some call life. We'll break out together. Ghoul night, kiddies. Beware the moon. Keep clear of the moors. But most of all, remember, be good to yourself. This is Dark Mark, signing off. See you soon, I hope. This is a Macabre Theater production. Subscribe.